Can't you just feel it? The conflict is becoming apparent in our culture. It reminds me of those words of John Paul II. We're now living in the final confrontation between the gospel and the anti-gospel, between the church and the anti-church, between Christ and the antichrist. And if we don't choose to know God's word, to believe God's word and follow God's word, we're going to be a sitting duck for all kinds of confusion, all kinds of disorder. Those are really important choices that people have to make.
And these choices are difficult. Who am I going to marry? What kind of life am I going to live? How am I going to raise my kids? What am I going to do with my time, my talent, and my treasure? And I have to make a choice today. Jesus says to each one of us, I came that you might have life and have it to the full. The question is, do we want it?
Hey, welcome to another week of The Choices We Face. My name is Ralph Martin, and I'm your host today. We have two really wonderful guests today, Ryan and Mary Rose Verrett from way down south in Louisiana. Welcome.
Thank you.
Tell us just a little bit about your own story. You know, Ryan and Mary Rose are leading a tremendous effort to strengthen marriages in the Catholic Church and prepare young people for marriage, and it's really tremendous. But before we get started on that, just tell us a little bit about your personal story.
Yeah, I think our personal story comes from I think in many ways almost kind of the need to rediscover the gift of marriage. Both come from a background like many, I think probably younger people today, where lots of divorce, lots of disorientation when it comes to committed relationships and marriages. And I think when we met, we discerned, over that time period, our engagement and friendship, that if we were to be married, that we would want to do it as best we could and do it in the Lord and make sure it would last. You know. So
you were both like practicing Catholics at the time?
Yes, we were.
Mm-hmm.
We were,
yeah.
And through the benefit of a lot of good mentoring, a lot of good friends, and just many opportunities to be, seek personal conversion and healing in our own lives.
So how long have you been married?
A little bit over 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you have children?
We have 5. We have ages 9 through 5 months.
And we got one in the back room back there, hoping
Yes.
they behave themselves and don't cry, so you can stay with us for the whole program.
We call those the domestic church bells.
They don't always ring on time.
Yeah, okay. Well, I know you have a little video that you can show us that will give us a little feel of what you're doing. So let's watch the video, then we'll come back and talk about it.
Sounds good.
Our first wedding, it was a civil wedding. One day we realized we need the sacrament of marriage to fulfill our relationship.
I just knew that we needed to have our marriage convalidated so desperately so we could continue to grow and be in communion with not only the church, but be in communion with God. Our kids are growing up faithful, and we can give them a good example what true sacramental marriage looks like.
Why would you desire to have your marriage convalidated? I'd like to give you 3 reasons. To get right with God, to strengthen your marriage and your family, and for the grace of the sacraments. And hey, when you come, we're just here to love you and to walk with you. We're not here to judge what's happened in the past, and we just want to welcome you completely into God's family, into our family.
Even though we was married civilly, it didn't feel right.
In our hearts, we knew that
we want to be married.
We wanted to get back on track. So at our 5-year civil anniversary, we had our marriage validated in the Catholic Church. We were excited. It was our real wedding. Is how we felt. It's almost like we just...
It was like a grace, like it was a blessing to know that you're on the right track.
Witness to Love has developed this program for those in civil marriages who want to have their marriages convalidated so that we can walk with them well. And so that a convalidation is not just a piece of paper, but that they can receive the grace of that sacrament and that it can bear fruit because we have done our job helping them to prepare.
Witness to Love has totally changed marriage prep in our parish.
Absolutely.
Previously, you would meet with your priest, you would take a little focus inventory or some sort of inventory, meet with a couple to go over the results, and boom, you would let go. The materials are just, they're realistic, faith-forming, and what we hear is the impact that it had on the mentor couple's marriage and relationship with the church just by working through those enriching materials.
Yes, we hear that the mentor couples say, wow, this was fantastic for us.
I was inspired by our mentor couple, just seeing how they lived their lives and how happy they were living with Jesus at the center of their marriage.
And not making it where you just want to hurry up and get through it, but it's where you learning stuff. I mean, I'm learning, and it's fun learning. It's not just boring. The people we surrounded ourselves with now, the church community is awesome.
Going through the program, we were able to evaluate what we had been through. Those wounds again were exposed, but we were able to see that they didn't dictate or rule our life and what we had overcome. We have better communication. We don't hold grudges. Pat and I have truly fallen deeper in love authentically with one another.
And I'm not worried about anybody slipping through the cracks, nor am I worried about anybody not getting the formation that they need for lack of time or lack of energy on my part. I am better able to father my people than I could by myself.
If you're missing the sacrament of marriage, you're missing out. You don't have to control everything.
Yeah,
you let
exactly.
God take control.
And how you got you something good.
I married her twice. I married her 3 times. She keeps on being this good.
What I know now is, going through Witness to Love, that the two have become one flesh.
That's beautiful. We could do this all day. What else you got?
Well, it looked like there were some pretty happy couples in that video. Yeah. What are you doing actually to help couples?
Well, we started off really just trying to understand in the work that I did in diocesan ministry in marriage and family life, and then Ryan and I working with couples at the parish level, just trying to understand. Couples go to a 1-day or 2-day sort of shot in the arm marriage prep conference, but then after that, what happens? And so many couples, just because of the backgrounds that they come from, like Ryan and I, backgrounds of maybe divorce or just not having that witness of authentic family life, what it looks like, that 1 or 2 days just wasn't enough. And we would hope that they would go to church after the wedding day, but they weren't. And we would hope that they would stay married, but the national average for 5 years after the wedding day, 25% of couples are divorced. The Catholic rate is 23% at 5 years after the wedding day.
Hardly
it's a
any
2% difference.
Yeah.
So we were trying to change that. And at the parish where we were working, it was 23% divorce rate. We tracked, we checked. And that was with mentoring, meetings with father, natural family planning classes, inventories, retreat, everything. And so we knew more wasn't the answer. We had to do it differently. Mm-hmm. And what we discovered was, similar to the name of this show, choice is important. And if couples put some skin in the game and they discern whose marriage they admire, that they would like to walk with them. And we formed the 2 couples to walk together, really a 2-for-1 evangelization opportunity. That changed everything. And we were able to drop the divorce rate to less than 6%.
Wow.
At 5 years after the wedding day. So that's the key.
By having a couple preparing for marriage connect with an already married couple who's living a fairly stable marriage and
Yes.
practicing their faith, and that mentoring is able to really help couples persevere in their marriage.
Correct, and not mentoring necessarily in the traditional sense that we think for marriage prep, where father says, "Oh, here's a great couple. They're married. Look, you guys are going to work together." The feedback, we did try that at first, and the feedback we heard was, "This is forced fun. This is not fun. We have to share, intimate conversations with someone we don't know and we don't trust and we don't have a relationship with." Mm-hmm. And so the odds of them going back to that couple for help after the wedding day when they need help was almost zero. They weren't reaching out for help until it was too late.
So how did you find couples that they felt comfortable with?
They chose them.
But how, like, do you give them a pool of couples to choose from that are solid couples, or?
About 20% of engaged couples will say, I don't know a soul who's happily married and goes to church, which are the requirements. And so we say, great, here's 10 couples you can choose from, but you have to choose.
That you've already pre-screened and you know that they'll do a good job. And
yes.
Then they're able to pick somebody they feel like they can relate to better. Yeah.
Correct. And it's so much more effective, and it's the choice. Choice is so important, especially for young people today.
Mm-hmm. Now, this is something that you started in your own parish, but now it's national. Tell us about the spread of it.
International. I think we just tapped into a void that's been it's sort of been missing in faith formation. I think in the past few years, Father Benedict Groeschel, I remember him saying that rules without relationships lead to rebellion, and we tapped into this essential element of like a relationship, a virtuous relationship, the way St. Thomas Aquinas would understand virtue, and the Catechism would teach that in John Paul II. Whereas a relationship sort of becomes the platform where catechesis makes sense. Mm-hmm. And so it just, it's something that started off in our parish 9 years ago, without books or videos, is spread to almost 80 dioceses now in the U.S. and Canada. And we have a group piloting it now in Vietnamese. It's already well established now in French, Spanish, and English. But it's a joy to sort of rediscover what many priests have said to us. Have said, are you just applying an early church model of marriage preparation to today's basically need, where young people, there's just this void when it comes to the remote preparation the church would understand canonically for the sacrament.
That's great. I hear that right after the program, you're heading into Detroit, where the seminary is, where I teach, and you're going to be sharing this method with a lot of priests.
Yeah, we love sharing with this method with priests and parish leaders, just any marriage champions, because you see the unique way that marriage formation can kind of ignite renewal in a parish. I mean, we need the doors of domestic churches to sort of be opened in communities, so that there's sort of a welcoming, almost a vestibule, or not a vestibule, or almost like a foyer, I guess you would say, where engaged couples can see what a Catholic family can look like. Because the sacrament of matrimony, it makes sense, of course, at the altar, but its fuller context is in the home, right? But young people haven't seen that. So we're filling that gap.
There's so many young people today who, they have no idea what sort of a healthy domestic church or family life looks like. They come from, homes where there's divorce, or maybe a lot of them, they'll say, like, we had sports all the time. We were going between, our parents were divorced. We were going between homes. Like, we have absolutely no idea what family life looks like. They'll say, but, when we were in high school, this one friend's parents were married, and that's where we hung out all the time. We all wanted to be at his house. And I want that couple to walk with us. And see, that's how the connections happen. A lot of time, it's that story where this is the one couple I can think of where I felt like I had a glimpse of what marriage looks like.
Yeah. And in an initial way, we hear often too that people we're going to say it's not couples don't get divorced primarily because they didn't read maybe section 5 of the theology of the body. That's not what's sort of put on the norm. It's because they've had really a relationship. Finances, just things and family of origin, and those are so fundamental for the theology of the body. Yeah.
There's a void in witness in what relationships really look like.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I noticed at the very end of the video, there was a phrase that said "Civil Marriage Initiative."
Yeah.
What's that? Well, Civil Marriage Initiative, it's something we've been kind of discerning for a number of years. We would hear from our Witness to Love parishes around the country. They would say, look, we're putting these civilly married couples through the Witness to Love process. And their transformation is remarkable because they are coming for a sacrament and not a venue. So in evangelization language, they are seekers, not wanderers.
They're not looking for like a photo op for their wedding.
Right.
They're not looking for a nice place to have their wedding ceremony, but they're actually looking for something to help their marriage.
Grace.
Yes, yeah. They're looking for grace.
Yeah.
They're looking for Jesus. And so those couples, when you kind of tap into them in the church community and not just have a meeting or two and say, oh, you know what you're doing, you've been married 10 years, like we'll just bless that. the transformation doesn't always happen because they've been living kind of on the fringes of the parish and they weren't fully integrated into the parish. They didn't receive the formation. And one couple, they said, I feel like I've received a second-class sacrament. And I said, oh my goodness, that has to change. And so what we did was work with 9 different dioceses around the United States, with canon lawyers, with bishops, with leaders, with couples, just saying, okay, how can we give you exactly what you need? And so in February of this year, we released a new version of Witness to Love, specifically designed and created for civilly married couples to accompany them deeper into the life of the church and to allow them to become catalysts for evangelization in the community, because they can articulate in a way that we cannot what a sort of a natural marriage looks like versus a sacramental marriage, and how grace has operated and how God has worked in their marriage. And it is one of the most powerful evangelization opportunities of our time.
Well, that sounds really great. How would people get in touch with you to find out more about what you're doing, and maybe they could bring it to their parish or their diocese? I
think a good place to start, maybe our website, witnesstolove.org, witnesstolove.org, and our phone number's on there, and you can email us on Facebook. But and we've been blessed with some neat resources and tools to help parishes and to help basically sustain volunteers to bring this model, this methodology to their parish. So,
now, can people actually start doing this without you or somebody on your team mentoring them? I mean, can you just send them materials? And
absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, so on our website there is the opportunity to request free review materials. It says, request parish starter kit, you fill out a survey and our team will send you a link and you can review the materials for free and bring it to your parish. And for the Civil Marriage Initiative, we actually received a grant from our Sunday Visitor, and that allows any parish in the country to receive the Civil Marriage Initiative materials as well. So that's why we're here in Detroit.
So people are able to take the materials by themselves and figure out what to do then?
For the Civil Marriage Initiative, for the full sort of parish renewal, like the full Witness to Love, there is hand-holding needed, and so that there is an online training for that. But we do have scholarships for parishes that need it. But in the diocese that we're in, I would say there have been a number of parishes that really, their weekly collection is below $500, and we handhold those parishes and we take care of them.
Yeah. So basically, you don't just put the two sets of couples together, but you give them some resources, materials to guide their interactions.
Yes.
Like the young couple getting married or coming back to a sacramental marriage has materials.
Sure.
And also the mentoring couple has materials to help them.
Right. And I think we learn sort of best practices from working with parishes in the past, how to really sort of motivate the clergy to appreciate the gift of marriage formation again and marriage preparation. There's definitely amongst many priests sort of a challenging level of interest just because they get discouraged in the outcomes of marriage prep. It's a lot for a little bit return oftentimes, not all the time. And so we have the opportunity with these marriage champions, the parish leaders, to basically share with them our best practices and what we discovered along the way.
Would the pastor have to be behind this in order for it to work in a marriage?
That's helpful.
For it to flourish, yes.
Yeah.
But we're in parishes where maybe the pastor, English is not his first language, or he has so many parishes, he can't be as involved as we would hope. And we do have what we call like adaptions for those different situations. But a lot of times people, there's always this misunderstanding where they'll say, oh, marriage mentoring, so I'm going to just take what, we have mentors at our parish, so we're just going to order Witness to Love materials and use those. And our materials are created for those sort of the bonding between two couples. And the traditional mentoring model is, okay, we have 10 couples and, you're going to have 2 or 3 couples you work with every year and you got to be on to the next. Whereas with the Witness to Love, the focus is the bonding between the two couples, the accompaniment, the ongoing relationship long after the wedding day. And so the material is focused on virtue growth and relationship growth between the two couples. And something we learned, because we used to teach virtue classes, marriage prep, from behind a podium. But what we discovered was virtue is caught, not taught. And you can teach all you want, sort of the theory of virtue, but the life skills by themselves, that also doesn't work. You have to have the virtue, and you can only grow in virtue in a relationship where you're watching someone who you trust and admire growing in virtue alongside you. And so that's really the key to the materials and how we support the couples at the parish.
Great. How many parishes are doing this right now, would you say?
just over 500 or
Yeah.
400. Yeah, it's just over
In how many
400.
dioceses? I know you mentioned it.
Almost 80.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
really tremendous. That's
Yeah,
really-
and you think, every diocese is different, but you always have really a handful of priests, a handful of parishes that do probably the majority of weddings. And so, not every parish has, it just varies across the U.S., but I think that's been the greatest joy is basically seeing parishes rediscover how marriage can really renew a community and renew a parish, even those towns that are struggling. Yeah.
Sounds like it's a wonderful, creative, important way of doing the new evangelization.
We think so.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of like, hey, this is a way of evangelizing people in a really significant way, bringing them into a relationship with
Yeah.
Christ and with each other. And
Sure, and,
church, yeah.
in this time in the United States where just there's been a breakdown of trust, and particularly with the younger generations, when you reestablish trust through committed friendships that are chosen, all the faith formation and catechesis and doctrine makes so much more sense. It's grace only builds upon nature, and so we help them basically sort of rediscover what the nature of marriage looks like.
And something neat that we've also discovered, I would say in the past 2 years, is that we kept seeing the mentor couple have this amazing conversion. And in that little video clip we watched, he said, the mentor couples, we just keep hearing the impact it has on them. And what we've realized is that, see, the mentor couple, they're in a good place, and grace builds on nature. So it's about 7% of couples who are happily married go to church, of Catholic couples, and it's a small pool that the engaged couple can choose from.
Did you say 7%?
About 7%. Dr. Popchak has a book out called The Exceptional 7%, and basically that's how many married couples are happily married.
The engaged couples are not choosing married couples who look sad and separated.
No sour
But
faces.
There's a small group of couples that are happily married that smile, enjoy holding hands, and those are the couples, and those few that are sitting in pews. So it's not like just this free for all, like choosing. It's a small number, and I think we always have to tell that part because that gives some of the pastors and the clergy a little bit of a sigh of relief that, okay, we're not choosing just anybody,
Yeah.
But those couples, they're usually seekers or disciples, kind of talking evangelization language. And when they are asked by a couple who says, I want what you have, like I have no idea how to do it. And so that when a wanderer asks a seeker, and most engaged couples are wanderers, they're coming for the venue, not for the sacrament. But we can take advantage, we can say, no, you can't do this without the grace. Yeah. And so when a wanderer asks a seeker to sort of model marriage for them, it puts so much positive pressure on that beautiful married couple. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, we got to reassess.
We better get our act together even better than it is right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that powerful, beautiful pressure on that couple, and then the engaged couple has a front row seat to this couple that they admire, to their transformation and their conversion. It is so powerful.
Yeah, so actually the young couple sees change happening in the older couple's marriage.
Yes.
So they don't have to pretend that they're already there, but they're on the journey too. Yeah.
And that becomes like the catechetical model. That's where they see everything that you're reading in books, they see it here,
How long does the program go on?
Most couples, I would say, it can be done in as little as 4 months, but the ideal is 6 to 9 months. Okay. But then they continue after the wedding day. We are working on a marriage enrichment, which we call it a marriage mystagogia, because this really is a catechumenate process. Mm-hmm. Catechumenate presuming this couple really doesn't know who Jesus is, doesn't know what the sacrament is, doesn't know what marriage and family life look like. So we're starting from that starting point and bringing them all the way into being able to unpack the mystery of the sacrament of marriage, which you can't do that alone either. Yeah. And so they continue this together.
We don't have a lot of time left, but could you just share a few things about what you found helpful in your own marriage?
Communication skills. Yeah. All the virtues that are required, from NFP to basically just resolving scheduling, like who's doing what. Obviously, communication skills and respect and patience, and I would say that.
And humor, a sense of humor.
Sense of humor, and also, being grateful for the opportunity that God has given us, sort of an attitude of gratitude, and that we can figure this out. Human beings, we're designed for relationships.
Have you had some challenges that you've had to kind of work through, or?
Yeah, we have. Yeah, I think just probably
the stress of just in our first year of marriage, build a house, change jobs, had a premature baby. I mean, all the things that they're like, these are the big stressors. We had them all within like 2 months of each other.
Yeah, also just the remote preparation that we received. Mira's parents were divorced. My background, both came from those backgrounds of divorce and alcoholism and all those modern just challenges, and how that sort of distorts but also provides opportunities to, be fathered by God.
So you had to understand the effect of your own family situations on you and work that through.
We're not isolated from any of that.
And we needed community, so we're surrounded by just some really beautiful couples. But you have to actively seek community and married couples to support
That's great.
you.
Well, I'm really glad to hear what you're doing. And again, if you'd like to make contact with Ryan and Mary Rose, witnesstolove.org. And it just sounds like a tremendous blessing for the church. And I hope many more parishes and dioceses respond to it.
Thank you.
Hey, I've written a booklet. Oh, no, I haven't written a booklet. This year, Peter Herbeck has written a booklet, and it's called Unfailing Promises. And you'll see Peter in some of the programs coming up. And this is about all the amazing promises that Jesus has made to us that we can really count on. In a time of confusion, in a time of kind of competing ideologies, in a time of discouragement and despair in different ways, we really need to keep our eyes on Jesus. One of the things that Teresa of Avila said, if you just keep your eyes on Jesus, you're going to reach your destination. Besides keeping our eyes on Jesus in prayer, so to speak, we need to know what he's actually said. Jesus has really promised things to us that we can really count on, that's more solid than the very ground we're standing on. So we'd like to make this booklet available to you at no cost, just for the asking. If you just call the 800 number or go to our website, renewalministries.net, and we'll get the booklet right out to you. Until next week, this is Ralph Martin wishing you the very best. A life that chooses for Christ, a life that chooses for the sacrament of marriage, a life that chooses for union with God.
We live in unsettling and challenging times. People everywhere are reaching for an anchor, something that's true, something they can hold on to. St. Peter tells us we can find this security in what he called the precious and very great promises of God.